Mark back to do another episode of EigenD, creating a modular synthesizer. Okay, so last time we got to a situation where we had a simple oscillator with a ladder filter. And the key point about this, and the thing that's special about EigenD in this case, is the fact we've got per key expression. We've also got the ability to actually move things around into the order we want, which gives us that modularity that we're discussing. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do to add a little bit of spice to it is add a bit of reverb. Now, in previous videos, I've shown you can add audio units, and I will go into that again later because we can get very creative with audio units. But in this case, I'm actually going to select the convolver agent, which is actually a convolution reverb that's native to EigenD, and just show how we can use this. And I like convolvers because they're quite flexible, should we say. Now I've actually got, I'm going to just give it initially. This is a viola thing. And that can actually be surprisingly expressive and also surprisingly give that viola type sound with the right set of oscillators. It's not quite set up at the moment, but also I'm going to show you using Diego Soccer's stuff, which is, I just love it. It's just really creative. We can make something more out of it. I'm going to pick this. I'm going to actually turn down the gain fractionally because it'll add a bit of volume. See, this is the crazy thing about per node expression is that we can already get quite a lot out of it. What is a very, very simple patch at this point. But of course, we don't need the modulation so much because we can add it ourselves in expression. But let's carry on. This doesn't mean just because we don't need it, we're not going to add it. So what I'm going to want to do is I want to actually add now a second oscillator. And the way I'm going to do that is I could actually continue to use the ladder filter here with the oscillator. But what I'm going to do, just to simplify the patch a little bit, is to move the ladder filter the other side, such that I'm going to be using the summer to sum the two oscillators. So I don't want to, at this stage, create two filters. But I could do. It's not difficult. It's just, it'll make it more complicated to think. So we just disconnect that. And we can then, so we just disconnect that from the audio outputs, disconnect it from everything basically, just move it over here. Also disconnect the summer. Okay, and then we can just connect summer into the audio unit. Now, because this is monophonic, if you actually try to connect this directly to here, it will get confused. Sorry, because we've got this low pass output here, it'll get confused if I try to automatically connect it, but I can connect it manually. So I just go left audio input to right audio input, adds it, and we got that. Now we can just simply close it up, move it across here, close that as well, and that's that. Now we've not got any real control over this at the moment, but we'll add that back later. I've got cut off frequency 500 at the moment, that should be fine. So then basically what we're going to do is just test that we've still got audio. Okay, so I've not got any left or right at the moment, but that's okay because I'm going to use the yaw for something else now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add another oscillator. I'll do the standard detune system. So we're going to take a sawtooth oscillator, another one. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to connect it up in the same way. So basically I'm going to connect all these outputs here back into, so I'm going to take the frequency, and I'm going to take the pressure output into there. Okay, and then I'm going to take the audio output into the summer. Now, I'm thinking to detune it slightly manually, and you'll see why. If I detune it quite a bit, what you'll actually see is I can only hear one of the oscillators, and there's a very good reason for that. Let me set that to 0 for the moment. And the reason for that is because in this summer, it's basically got the two oscillators connected to the same input, and that means it can't it actually only looks at one of them. And the way we get around that is if we come in here and edit the wires, so using the edit tool, we can then give each one of these a channel number. So we give that 1, and then we give that 2. Simple as that, doesn't matter what they are, but just as long as they're different. Now if we come into here again, now if I just give it a bit of, I'll tell you what, let's edit it manually. Now we clearly have both of them. So that's good. So what we'll do is let's try something else. And now what we've got here is we've got this thing detuned. That's quite nice. So what happens now if we want to do something else? So let's, for example, so now we want to bring the detune under user control. So let's just quickly take this and we'll zero that out. And the way I want to do that is I want to actually do that under the yaw control, so the front back movement as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to introduce a new ranger, which I'm going to spend a little bit of time with explaining. It's called the ranger agent. What this allows us to do is to scale inputs to outputs. So in this particular case, we want to actually go from this front back movement, yaw output, which is actually -1 to 1, and we want to scale it to a detune range that we're interested in. So in this particular example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want a maximum of 100 cents detune and a minimum of 0 cents detune. The rest is the 0 point, so that's basically when I'm in the middle of the key, what do I want it? And in this particular case, I want it to actually be, I think, 50. Yeah, somewhere in between. No, actually, let's, yeah, 50. In fact, that's all too much. Let's do 25 and let's do 50 here. Okay. Now, one thing I recommend you do is when using an agent is actually set the ranges first. Just because when you start dealing with things like frequencies, especially with the rest, you can be sending in pretty erratic values. So it's a good idea to do it first. We then simply just wire that up into the detune input and your input into the input. You'll always have to do that manually because this is called input and output. You could rename it, but it's easiest not to. And we can see we've now got detune under user control. And of course, again, it's per key, as we said. Again, how many synthesizers can do that? So that's fine. We've now got that. Now, just to tidy up, we've got this ladder filter over here now, and it's not actually under control. Now, now we've got the ranger agent, what I'm going to do is actually get this to be controlled by, you remember I've got strips here on my sound plane here. I've got little strip values. So I'm going to move those under strip control. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to, again, create another ranger. Again, the strip value is going from 0 to -1. EigenD already knows what values it goes from and to. And then we can say, well, in this particular case, what I'd like to do is to have a maximum frequency cutoff of, say, let's say 1,000. And the minimum cutoff frequency, well, let's say about 200. And the rest value, we'll have about 500, so in the middle. And we could just OK that. Again, open up the ranger. And now we just take this from this absolute strip position. Absolute relative is just whether or not it's the position you've moved from or whether or not it's the actual place in it. And then we can put that into this input. And then we can actually map this onto the ladder input. I usually just zero this out just so that I know I've done it. But bring it up to here. And now I've not got it because let's see, other strip control. And that's it. I'll move it over to the other strip because otherwise I'll forget I've put it on strip 2. I usually put it on strip 1. So that's it. That's another part. So now what we've got is we've now got a synthesizer that's got a convolution agent. It's now got 2 oscillators, and we've got some detune for it. So what we're going to do next is we're going to actually add a bit more spice to it. So we'll add a sub oscillator, which will be done in a similar way as to the way we had this main oscillator. And then we'll add also an LFO to control things, which will be kind of fun. Okay, that's it for now though.